Have you ever noticed that some mornings feel a bit heavier than they used to? Maybe it is a lingering stiffness in your back that was not there 5 years ago, or the realization that your favorite walking trail feels just a little bit longer than it did last summer. For many of us over the age of 50, it feels like we are in a constant race against an invisible clock. We see the wrinkles, we feel the slowing energy, and we are often told that this is just the way life goes. It is the price of admission for a life well lived. But what if that story is incomplete? I am Robert Evans, a senior health researcher. I have spent my career looking past the surface-level symptoms of aging to understand the data beneath. My goal today is not to sell you a fountain of youth or a miracle pill, because as a researcher, I know those do not exist. Instead, I want to share a shift in scientific thinking that is happening right now in 2026. We are moving away from the idea that aging is a series of unrelated breakdowns, like a car losing its muffler and then its brakes. Instead, research institutions like the National Institute on Aging are looking at the very engine of our biology. For a long time, the medical community focused on treating diseases after they appeared. We waited for the heart to struggle or the joints to fail before we stepped in. But a field called Geroscience is changing that perspective. The central idea is that if we can understand the biological processes of aging itself, we might be able to delay or even prevent the onset of multiple age-related conditions all at once. It is a more holistic, data-driven approach to longevity that focuses on your health span, which is the number of years you live in good health, rather than just your lifespan. The data suggests that we are entering an era where aging is no longer seen as an inevitable slide into frailty. Just this past year, studies have reinforced the concept that our biological age, the age our cells act like, does not always have to match the number on our birth certificate. In fact, research from Harvard Medical School has introduced a fascinating concept called the information theory of aging. Think of your DNA like a compact disc. Over time, that disc gets scratches. The music starts to skip or sound distorted. This theory suggests that the genetic music of our youth is still there, but the scratches make it hard for the body to read the instructions correctly. This brings us to a major discovery that has gained significant traction between 2024 and 2026. Scientists have identified what they call the epigenetic clock. This is essentially a way to measure how much wear and tear has occurred on your genetic software. The exciting part for those of us over 50 is that this research indicates these scratches might not be permanent. Recent evidence suggests that through specific lifestyle interventions, we can actually polish the disc, helping our cells read those youthful instructions once again. One study that has caught the attention of the research community involves the removal of what are known as zombie cells, or senescent cells. These are cells that have stopped dividing but refuse to die. Instead of leaving the body, they linger and release inflammatory signals that damage the healthy cells around them. The National Institute on Aging has been heavily involved in researching how clearing out these zombie cells can improve mobility and heart health in seniors. Imagine a garden where the old, dying weeds are finally pulled, allowing the fresh flowers to finally get the sunlight and nutrients they need. I see so many people in their 60s and 70s feeling frustrated because they feel they have lost control over their own vitality. They see the data about rising rates of chronic conditions and feel like it is a roll of the dice. But the evidence from places like the Mayo Clinic suggests that our biology is much more responsive than we once believed. We are not just a collection of parts that wear out. We are a dynamic system that is constantly trying to repair itself. Our job as we age is to give the body the right environment to make those repairs. The shift we are seeing in 2026 is the move from anti-aging, which is often about vanity, to pro-longevity, which is about function. It is about having the strength to lift your grandchildren, the clarity to finish that book, and the energy to travel. The research indicates that the gap between a person who feels old at 60 and someone who feels vibrant at 80 often comes down to how well they are managing these core biological processes. In this series of discussions, I want to break down exactly what the latest peer-reviewed data says about how you can influence your own biological clock. We are going to look at the evidence regarding cellular energy, the role of inflammation, and how the very way we move and eat sends signals to our genes. This is not about a quick fix. It is about understanding the roadmap that modern science is finally starting to complete. The data is clear. the choices we make after 50 can have a profound impact on the quality of the decades that follow. We are moving from a period of guesswork to a period of precision, and the results are incredibly encouraging for anyone looking to maintain their vitality. To understand how we can influence this biological clock, we have to look deep inside the structure of our cells. Research from the National Institute on Aging identifies several hallmarks of aging, which are the specific biological processes that cause us to slow down. One of the most significant factors involves our mitochondria. You might remember from school that these are the power plants of the cell. They take the food we eat and the oxygen we breathe and turn them into energy. As we pass the age of 50, the data suggests these power plants often become less efficient, like an old power grid struggling to keep the lights on during a summer heat wave. When our cellular energy drops, everything becomes more difficult. The body's ability to repair DNA, the way we process sugar, and even how our muscles recover after a walk all depend on this energy. Scientific consensus points toward a decline in a molecule called NAD+ as a primary culprit. This molecule is essential for mitochondrial function and DNA repair. Think of NAD+ as the maintenance crew for your cells. As we age, the size of that crew naturally decreases, leaving more repairs left undone. This is why a minor injury at 70 might take much longer to heal than it did at 30. But the energy crisis is only half of the story. We also have to address what researchers call inflammaging. This is a state of chronic, low-grade inflammation that simmers throughout the body as we get older. Unlike the sharp pain of a stubbed toe, this inflammation is quiet. You might not feel it directly, but it acts like rust on a machine, slowly degrading our joints, our blood vessels, and even our cognitive function. The Mayo Clinic has conducted extensive research showing that this inflammation is often driven by those zombie cells I mentioned earlier. These cells sit in our tissues and broadcast danger signals to the rest of the immune system, keeping the body in a constant state of high alert. This is where the Harvard research on the information theory of aging becomes so vital for us to understand. The scratches on the disc are often caused by these inflammatory signals and the lack of cellular energy. When the environment inside our body is noisy and inflamed, our genes get confused. They forget whether they are supposed to be a skin cell or a heart cell, and they stop performing their specific jobs effectively. This loss of cellular identity is a major reason why our skin becomes thinner and our heart muscles become stiffer. However, the news from the laboratory is quite hopeful. Data from 2025 and 2026 suggest that this process is surprisingly plastic, meaning it can be molded. We used to think that DNA was a rigid blueprint, but we now know it is more like a dimmer switch. We can turn certain longevity genes up and turn inflammatory genes down. This is the science of epigenetics. Research from The Lancet has highlighted how our external environment, what we do and how we live, acts as the hand on that dimmer switch. For example, let's look at how our bodies handle waste. A process called autophagy is the body's way of self-cleaning. It is like a cellular recycling program that breaks down old, damaged proteins and turns them into new parts. As we age, this recycling program tends to lag, leading to a buildup of cellular trash that interferes with healthy function. But research indicates that certain patterns of activity and timing can actually re-trigger this cleaning process. By encouraging autophagy, we are essentially helping the body clear out the internal clutter that contributes to the feeling of being old. Institutional evidence from the Geroscience network suggests that by targeting these pathways, mitochondrial energy, inflammation, and cellular cleaning, we are not just masking symptoms. We are addressing the root causes of age-related decline. This is why two people can be 70 years old, yet one has the cardiovascular health of a 50-year-old while the other struggles to walk a block. It is not just good genes. It is often about how their lifestyle has interacted with these cellular mechanisms over time. One of the most profound realizations in modern research is the role of hormesis. This is the idea that brief, controlled periods of stress can actually make the body stronger. Think of it like a vaccine. A small, managed dose of a challenge prepares the immune system for the real thing. In the same way, the data suggests that certain types of physical and metabolic challenges can wake up our survival genes. These genes then go to work repairing DNA and strengthening the mitochondria. It is a biological use it or lose it scenario. As a researcher, I find this incredibly empowering. It means that even if you are starting your health journey in your 60s or 70s, Your biology is still listening. Your cells are still capable of responding to the right signals. We are moving away from the wear and tear model of aging toward a signal and response model. If we send the right signals to our cells, the data shows they have a remarkable capacity to maintain and even restore their function. In the next part of our discussion, we will look at exactly how the latest research translates into the daily choices that send those youthful signals to your biology. Now that we have explored the biological landscape, the question becomes, how do we apply this data to our daily lives? The research suggests that slowing the aging process is not about one single superfood or a complex medical protocol. Instead, it is about consistency in the signals we send to our cells. Based on the scientific consensus from the Mayo Clinic and the National Institute on Aging, there are three primary pillars we can focus on to support our cellular vitality. The first pillar is the timing and quality of our nutrition. The data indicates that our bodies were not designed to be in a constant state of digestion. When we are always eating, our cells are in growth mode, which sounds good, but it actually prevents that essential self-cleaning process of autophagy we discussed earlier. Research suggests that simply extending the time between your last meal of the day and your first meal the next morning can give your cells the quiet time they need to perform internal repairs. It is like allowing a road crew to work on the highway at night when there is no traffic. Scientific consensus suggests that a window of 12 to 14 hours of rest for your digestive system can significantly improve metabolic markers and reduce chronic inflammation. When we do eat, the evidence points toward a diet rich in phytonutrients that act as mimetic signals. For example, compounds found in dark leafy greens, berries, and cruciferous vegetables like broccoli have been shown to activate the same longevity pathways as exercise. These are not just vitamins, they are biological signals that tell your DNA to turn up the production of protective antioxidants. The second pillar is what I call functional movement. As a researcher, I often see people over 50 get stuck in the trap of thinking they need to do long, grueling cardio sessions. However, the data from the Geroscience network suggests that maintaining muscle mass is actually one of the strongest predictors of longevity. Muscles are more than just a way to move. They are an endocrine organ that helps regulate blood sugar and manage inflammation. Research from the National Institute on Aging indicates that even 2 sessions of resistance training per week, using light weights or your own body weight, can significantly improve your mitochondrial health and bone density. The goal is not to become a bodybuilder, but to maintain the functional reserves that keep you independent and mobile. The third pillar is the management of our biological environment through sleep and stress reduction. I know we hear this often, but the data behind it is fascinating. During deep sleep, the brain essentially undergoes a power wash called the glymphatic system, which clears out the protein buildups that can lead to cognitive decline. Research indicates that seniors who prioritize 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep have much lower levels of those inflammatory zombie cells we talked about. Similarly, finding ways to manage chronic stress is vital because cortisol, the stress hormone, acts like a corrosive acid on our telomeres, which are the protective caps on the ends of our DNA. It is important to remember that these insights are based on broad scientific research and are not personal medical prescriptions. Your individual health journey should always be guided by your healthcare provider, who can help you tailor this information to your specific needs. However, the synthesis of the current data is very clear. Your daily habits are the most powerful tools you have to influence your epigenetic clock. We are living in an incredible time where the science of aging is catching up to our desire for a more vibrant life. We no longer have to guess what works. By focusing on cellular energy, reducing inflammation, and supporting our body's natural repair mechanisms, we can change the trajectory of our senior years. The evidence suggests that it is never too late to start sending better signals to your cells. Whether you are 50, 60, or 80, your biology remains a dynamic and responsive system. If you found this research-based deep dive helpful, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel. We are dedicated to synthesizing the latest data from the world's leading health institutions to help you navigate the complexities of senior vitality with clarity and confidence. We will continue to bring you the evidence you need to stay strong, sharp, and active. Thank you for spending your time with me today. And remember, the data shows that your best years are not just behind you. They are something you can actively cultivate every single day.